Afternoon. This is the Venezuela update from NBC News. Let's get it.
Yes, and we know that, Hallie, because the federal prosecutors have to tell the court that they intend to use classified information and that they need to bring in the attorneys in this case to get them to sign documents, make sure they're cleared to receive that information, and also make a promise that they're not going to make that information public in the course of their filings, or if so, to do it under seal. That's something that has already taken place in this case. As we mentioned before, this proceeding that began earlier today, that in fact there had been a prosecution going back to 2011. And I want people to think about this as we wait for our colleague Sam Brock to get mic'd up, because we did see him leaving the courtroom. It's a trip I've taken too many times before. But basically, in this case, if you want to think of the cartel of the Suns here, this is this group that federal prosecutors say is responsible for using violence, using money, using illegal means to get the drugs out of Colombia and other places in South America through Venezuela. That's why they say
What's up? What's up,
if
Mark?
you want to equate that to the American mob, that's effectively what
Nah,
Maduro and the
this here
Qatari
is just
regime are
a
basically being at the
update
top of that. If
on
you
what's
will,
going
having
on
the
with
allegation
Venezuela,
that they
man.
received compensation and
Straight
money and were
crazy.
involved in corruption in order to let these drugs go through. But a part of that will no doubt be intercepts that the U.S. has of conversations, discussions that have
I'm trying to
occurred
figure out though,
with
how y'all
the ability to
going hijack the
allocate these
dude's
drugs
country
in order to help
and
people in
kidnap the
need. That's
dude
how a
out of his
lot of
own
these drug cases
country?
are put together. This was a case that was put together by the
That's what I'm
DEA
trying to
over a
understand.
decade in coming up with it, and then was charged, Maduro specifically, back in March of 2020. At the time, Bill Barr pushing this case forward. It was definitely a topic of discussion in the Trump administration leading up to the COVID-19 shutdown back then. So that's how this case came together. That's some of the conduct that's been
See,
alleged here.
if I'm looking
Now we're
down, I'm
able to
looking
look at that
down
outside of the
at
courthouse and
my
see that
other
they have
phones
effectively
to see if
convicted
there's been any
obviously
update
with
with what's
what's
going
occurred
on or
here and the
whatever.
arrest of Maduro and his wife. You've got a number of individuals who are not happy with this in U.S. efforts in Venezuela. The NYPD having to deploy a second ring of barricades
Yeah,
along the
it's a
way
total coup,
on
man.
the sides of the crowd outside
It's
the
basically
courthouse.
one of
We
them
do have a number of
coup,
different ways to be able to get
what's that word?
Maduro and his wife out of
One
here,
of them cook the
presumably
top
back to the
things.
heliport in Wall Street on a good day. Yeah,
But the thing
without going
with
through
Trump
their
and these
minimum
idiots, they
security
said the
protocols,
quiet
that's
part
what
out
this
loud.
courthouse, frankly,
They
offers.
said straight up,
There are a number of ways to
we're
get
here for the
drugs out
oil.
of that courthouse and then out
Now,
onto the street, frankly.
anybody who's
They
sitting there
say that
trying to
they're
do a
allowed to use a
hustle,
vehicle
they
to
usually
be able
keep
to
the
get
quiet
in.
part to
They also
themselves.
teleport if in
This
fact they need to
is
use a helicopter.
sitting there
And then a
trying.
very short flight. If it takes
They're
them
not
back
even
that
trying to
long to
hustle the
fly
country.
back to
They
New
just sitting
York.
there trying to rob Venezuela. Talking about that
This
Venezuela
was an inside
stole oil.
but it's a historic moment
I'm like this here. If Venezuela stole oil, show proof. Until then, shut the hell up.
Howie, one of the most remarkable arraignments you could ever imagine, right? You've covered court cases throughout
I
the
hope
course of your career.
y'all can hear
You're
this.
progressed to remember anything like this. So Nicolas Maduro walks into the courtroom with his wife Celia Flores right around noon, and immediately. So first of all, he is wearing orange garb from the NBC, the Metropolitan Detention Center, a black shirt over that. Hard to tell how whether or not he was handcuffed or not.
Wait a
What I
minute,
will
they got him
say
in the
is
same jail that
when he
Diddy
was
said?
shaking hands with all of his attorneys, he nods at the
Yeah,
group of
they got him in the same
professionals
jail where
with him
Diddy at.
associated, as well as the journalists. It almost looked like at one point he cracked a smile, was greeting his attorneys, getting situated. His wife came in as well, Celia Flores, I might add. It was hard to tell at first, but then this was brought up by their attorneys, had bandages on her face and had bruising around her eyes. They discussed the fact that she was injured during detention and even mentioned possible fractures to her back or other parts of her body when the question around medical attention came up. So
Mm.
we'll get back to that in a second. But when I say remarkable, so they've come in. Maduro has 4 U.S. Marshals behind him. They sit directly behind Maduro. While he is seated and facing the judge, Judge Ellerstein addresses the court. He proceeds to read the charges over the narco-terrorism, the cocaine importation conspiracy, the weapons-related charges, gets through all of that, and then says to Nicolas Maduro, "Are you Nicolas Maduro?" And he says, Ali, first, "I am
Yeah,
Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela.
even when
I am
Chavez
President of the
was
Republic of
running it,
Venezuela. I
it
have been
wasn't
kidnapped since
stable.
January 3rd.
Yeah,
He
I
says,
heard
"Baja
about that.
Caracas, Venezuela," which at that that point, Hallie, the judge steps in and says, wait a minute. We're going to get to all that. I just want to know
And
particulars
not
before
only that, but
saying yes, yes, I
Venezuela
am. And in fact,
was
he says that
basically
he's learned
ran
by
the same
trying
way
to last
Colombia
night
was ran,
hearing the
off
entire
drug money.
translation. He actually interrupts the translator as she's trying to articulate to the judge and to the court what Maduro is saying. He's so eager to sort of state his case. So again, this was very anomalous in terms of what happens in what are normally perfunctory arraignments hearings. So they go through that. The judge reads through the charges. Okay. Then he asks him whether or not he's seen the indictment. And Maduro and his attorney, Barry Pollock, who by the way represented Julian Assange, well known in the field of criminal defense. He's also known for negotiating a plea agreement to get Assange out of jail. Also represented one of the Enron executives who was fully acquitted on criminal fraud charges. He's representing Maduro in this case, and he said, I briefed my client, but he hasn't actually read the indictment. And so then the judge says, do you want the court to read the indictment? Maduro says, no, I don't, but he does want to have consultation on it. The entire time this is going on, both Maduro and Flores are taking just scrupulous notes. I mean, you can see their notepads when they stood up at the end of the court proceeding, just filled with information. Maduro wanted to make sure that the court knew those were his notes. He's entitled to them. Am I allowed to keep them? The judge said, sure, you can keep the notes. So this all goes on, and then the judge asks Maduro whether or not he has been briefed on his rights. And by rights, not just to counsel, but also to silence. And when that exchange goes back and forth again with the translator, he says, this is the first I've been told of that. It's not clear whether or not Maduro was referring to whether or not he has to speak with police and law enforcement, or whether it was right to counsel, or what aspect of his rights he was just being informed about for the first time. That was a very interesting interaction as well. And of course, the pleas, right? So we get to the pleas. The judge asks Maduro how he pleads to these 4 counts. He says, soy inocente. I am innocent. I am not guilty. I am a decent man. At which point the judge again intervenes and says, okay, we were just looking for guilty or not guilty. Not a fuller explanation. Don't worry, there's going to be time for that. Very similar, by the way, with Celia Flores as well. She says, yes, I am Celia Flores, First Lady of the Republic of Venezuela. She acknowledges that she's seen a summary of the indictment, but not the actual indictment itself. And goes on and says, we're okay to waive the reading at this time. She planned on getting fully briefed, but he says, you know your rights, and she says, yes, I do. She
Oh,
also
you
says
talking about
she's
for
not going to be
cocaine? I
completely
think
innocent when
us.
she is asked whether or not she's guilty of those crimes. And her answer
It's
is no.
between
The
us
judge
and
wants to
Mexico,
know
as far
which
as
of
I
those
know.
counts do apply to Celia Flores. So this is all transpiring, Hallie. And then we find out that they have a right to consular notification. That's right. And they are both interested, both Maduro and his wife, in speaking with someone from a consular figure from their own government to get more information. Absolutely interested in that. And then one of the most bizarre things happens at the very end of this very brief arraignment. It was, 30 minutes or so. Maduro turns around, waves to the crowd. Not clear if he's waving at someone in particular or just in general, but a man stands up, and I want to quote this directly to you so I don't get it wrong. He says, you will pay on behalf of Venezuela. And Maduro says, in the name of God, I will be free. This is all happening in an arraignment in front of dozens of people, right? I mean,
Mm.
just know this is not normal playbook legal sort of stuff.
In
So
the
all
name
together,
of
it's
God,
very
I will
interesting.
be
There's also
free.
some follow-ups here. But I may just raise one other point, which is
In the
very
words
bizarre.
of Theo
That's
Coop,
what Maduro said.
God don't love
Yes,
you
I will
like
be
that.
planning on filing a motion regarding the legality or illegality, and used the word of Maduro's abduction, and also pointed out that he is
Yeah,
a
y'all
slave,
did
and
kidnap the
also
man, so
seeking
yeah,
2 years of immunity.
y'all
And
did abduct
so,
the
in
man.
months to come, those motions will be forthcoming, but they're not right now. Next steps in this, March 17th is 60 days from now. That's the next court hearing that's scheduled at the moment with Judge Hellerstein, and that's about discovery and sharing information that the prosecution has with Maduro and his legal team, and Flores and her legal team. For just an extraordinary 30 minutes in U.S. federal court that just transpired.
Sam, a stunning play-by-play from you. I want you to, I have some follow-ups for you, but I want to explain to people what they're seeing here. This is a live shot from above. We expect Nicolas Maduro and his wife to leave court. They will be transported back to that facility where they will be held behind bars for the remainder of these court proceedings. Sam, let me ask you about this outburst in court. Again, not something we typically see, as we have said so often over the course of the last couple of days here. Do we know who the person was that stood up and it's...
Are we winning or losing again?
Ah, crap.
Remind me
Ads.
again why we picked this specialty?
Anything else would be boring as hell. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Figure it out. You always do.
I can't tell you how proud I am of all of you. We'll get through this together.
Get rid of this ad.
He was apprehended
There
by
we go.
officials and taken away. What the consequences will be, not quite clear. But as we have this conversation about someone standing up in the face of Maduro, I will tell you, at 500 Pearl Street, where we are right now, at the site of many protests, there's dozens of people right now with Venezuelan flags that are happy and cheering the end of Maduro as the leader of Venezuela and calling for his justice. While
Yeah, Theo is a good dude. Yep.
there's a whole group of other individuals that are concerned with the manner in which the U.S. carried out this military action, and they're saying that it's illegal. So you have sort of these conflicting viewpoints on the doorsteps of the federal courthouse as this man, who to this point is unidentified, stands up solely, no one else is standing, and looks right at Maduro as he's waving and says, "You will pay for this."
It sounds as though, Sam, that Maduro had a degree of command in the room, the ability to make those remarks about his character and about his innocence to the judge. Sometimes in these arraignments, we hear just a single word or two from the defendant. That was not the case here. Maduro addressing the person who stood up in court and addressed him. Was that sense of how the proceedings went?
1,000%. And I will tell you, for Venezuelans who have lived under this regime, they're familiar with his showmanship. Talked about Peter Alexander this morning, the dancing on stage that the U.S. government in the recent weeks interpreted as some sort of act of defiance. Well, this is something that clearly felt like a showman when he walked into the room, which I think was what was most striking to many of us. I mean, here he is walking in under the custody of U.S. Marshals, and he's nodding to everybody there, even kind of cracking a smile, waving as he leaves the courtroom. It was almost like he felt like he had a command of what's going on. Obviously, this is someone who's been the president of a country for the last 10 plus years, but he was literally interrupting the translator when she was trying to translate what he was saying and continuing his commentary with the judge, and the judge was only looking for, one or two word answers. Now, obviously, he probably didn't understand the exact protocols of the U.S. legal system, but it was incredible to see just the presence that he had in that court, that he felt comfortable enough to act as if he was running the show, not necessarily, the judge and the justice officials.
Nah, I really don't schedule my lives out. I usually just go live when I can or when I'm able.
More or less, as we're seeing now, some of the movement now from outside court. Sam, stick with me because I have to ask. You mentioned seeing visible bandages and what appear to be bruising on Celia Flores. Any visible sign of injury on Nicolas Maduro?
No, none. He seemed, his physical stature is just so tall. He was taller than the other four people that brought him into the room. He was erect. He felt, very energetic. He didn't seem like someone who had been injured. I mean, obviously we've been documenting the fact that Maduro keeps showing thumbs up every time he is in front of a camera, whether that's at, the DAA processing department in Chelsea or it's underneath, the chopper as he's to a helicopter and a helipad. He seems to be very much projecting this image of power. He did not seem injured. His gait was normal, but it was surprising for sure. Once you really started to pay attention to it, to see exactly what Celia Flores' face looked like. I mean, there were clearly bandages there, obvious bruising, and I have a feeling that that's going to be brought up front and center here before too long.
Sam, stand by for 1 minute because we are seeing now this movement here in Manhattan, in New York City, what appears to be Maduro leaving court. Let me bring in Tom Winter, who has tracked movements like these countless times over the years. Where does Maduro head next? Where does Celia Flores head next?
Right, so they're coming out of what's called as Park Row. After 9/11, how this whole area was sealed and locked down. After coming out of that federal courthouse, the green vehicle there is known as a Bearcat. That's a heavily armored vehicle in the NYPD Highway Patrol. Now in the lead, also next to their headquarters.
His replacement is supposed to be his vice president, but knowing Trump, they gonna sit there put in their own person on who they want in there, just like Reagan did back in the day.
Looks like they'll probably get him back to the Wall Street heliport. This whole thing should take only several minutes at this point because they can block this off easily, and they've done this many times before. The reason for this, I know folks are going to look at it and say, look, this is an enormous amount of taxpayer dollars, and it is, and it's being used to do this. It's just that in order to get him safely there without having an incident and disrupting this whole judicial process, having any civilians injured, any members of the public, they want to be able to get him to a spot where they can just fly him to Brooklyn. You might remember in previous high-profile proceedings. I'm thinking of El Chapo when he was tried in New York. In other cases, they want to make sure that there's no members of the public that are injured. And to do that, they have to shut down the Brooklyn Bridge or other major arteries in New York City. And that's just something that becomes tenable. So it's easier to fly them, and all indications are at this point we'll know fairly shortly
Yep.
here because they have an opportunity to get on the bridge,
Yep.
get
Yep.
on the
Yep.
heliport.
The
They will
plot
drive through the
thickens.
heliport. This is right behind the entrance to NYPD's headquarters, as well
Cause
as
hell, ain't nothing in this
downtown.
in
It's
this
going to be an
world.
effort
It's
by
what it
marshals, by
seems.
the DEA in order to get them there. And at this point, it looks like they are making the turn to get down to the heliport. That's at least where it looks like to me. With it.
Okay, Lord, FDR
We're seeing
drive.
another image of Maduro
They driving
personally
down.
being walked back into the helicopter. Earlier one just after sunrise, early this morning, was being taken out.
Mm.
Again, aware of the camera angles, candidly, aware of his visibility, aware that he was being watched by people around the world. And I want to bring back in Sam Brock to the conversation because, Sam, I understand that in just the last maybe 2-3 minutes here, we have heard now from Maduro's defense attorney for the first time outside court.
Yeah, so Jonathan Deeds, our colleague at WNBC, apparently just spoke with Mary Pollock outside of court and asked him about comments that were asserted that he was abducted when Maduro said he was abducted by the U.S. government. Pollock said something to the effect that I'm paraphrasing here of what Mr. Maduro said in court speaks for itself. And that is part of the conversation that's going to be ensuing here in the coming weeks and months, Ali, is the idea of using force in an international relations capacity like that, which is explicitly prohibited unless it's in defense of a country or it's sanctioned by the United Nations. So what he meant in terms of
Yep.
the use of the word abduction is not clear. Maduro, well, at least it's clear enough.
Yep.
Maduro
It's
said
like
he was kidnapped.
it's like watching a movie.
And he said it's complicated, wilderness in terms of the motions that need to be violated. But you can
Excuse me.
expect that that's what
Ain't nothing but Truman Show in real life, man.
once they resume.
That's all it
Again,
is.
that's to reconnect and to be able to share and update the judge of where they are in terms of sharing documents and discovery. But it was striking to hear Pollock say what he said in court, his client, speaks for itself.
Let me go to Laura Jarrett, our senior legal correspondent. And Laura, the semantics matter when it comes to the legal proceedings here. The fact that Maduro used the word, as Sam is talking about, used the language kidnapped, his attorney talking about abduction.
Well, that's basically what they did.
Significant, not surprising.
You see the hijack a dude about out of his house.
While he may
Is that
feel
not
it was kidnapping
kidnapping?
or an abduction or the like,
Come
some
on,
signal
man.
of something being unjustified, his attorney is
There's
using it
kidnapping
to
all day
believe
long.
if it's a judge down the line, which it sounds like he'll want to do, that his detention is not legally justified, right? And so there will be a number of different arguments to marshal in their favor on that. But this isn't a case that is as if it's routine in any sense of the word, or that this is happening all the time. And so they're going to have to, do what they can to marshal arguments without the benefit of a ton of precedent for similar circumstances. I can't really think of a similar situation. We've talked about Noriega in the past, but it's not as
Yep.
if this is happening.
Did the same thing with Noriega.
So that they'll be able to marshal a bunch of cases in their favor. The Justice Department, on the other hand, has an enormous interest in this case and seeing him put away for a long time. As we've talked about, he was charged back in 2020. They didn't, by any stretch, do anything like this. They didn't make any attempt, at least as far as we know, and reporting has shown, to match the extract. Back then, probably believing that they could.
I gotta give you some cold
So
medicine.
now they're going to be working tooth and nail to try to keep him behind bars, but it will be up to that judge to decide down the line, imagining in months from now, whether or not his detention and his arrest was valid, whether or not his rights were valid or were violated in some way. And that will, of course, there will be appeal after appeal. And so I think, for people who are watching this all play out, during that time, unless his lawyers can figure out a way to get him out, he is going to be behind those bars in Brooklyn, and it is not a pleasant place. This is a place that's been subject to lawsuit after lawsuit for the conditions in there.
Yep.
It's going to be a far cry from the kinds of places that he's been enjoying up until this point.
And you are seeing now those images from earlier today, Maduro leaving that Brooklyn facility, flashing that thumbs up, and of course those images there of the military operation overnight. There it is again as we are watching. And just to give you a sense, listen,
I don't know about it being some minutes.
New York State
but the best comparison I can put it is the Truman Show in real life. That's all it is.
In the region in Colombia, we have heard Maduro now in court insist he is the president of Venezuela, and similar emphasis from his son, who is speaking at almost the same time that his father was in court to the Venezuelan National Assembly, saying his father is the rightful leader of that country.
He is, and I think it's fair to say that all across America right now, people are watching this. This is designed to send a message, as you've said, and all of your guests have said, all of the reporting that has been done. This is not just another typical court case. A head of state was
Ain't nothing about this typical.
abducted, brought to the United States to face trial. He's now professing his innocence. Some of the imagery here is clearly designed to send fear to the United States opponents in the region, designed to send fear to the leaders of Cuba, designed to send fear to the leader of Colombia, President of Colombia. President Trump has mentioned it specifically. He said that the President of Colombia better watch his backside and that the Cubans may be on their last legs, the Cuban regime. So this is a show of force, an intimidating show of force. But you mentioned also several times that this is completely unprecedented. This is unprecedented, but it is it is reminding me of something that I witnessed about 20 years ago. I was standing exactly where, or in the same situation where Sam Brock was right now, and he did an amazing job giving us the play-by-play of what had happened inside that courtroom. I was in a similar courtroom in Iraq when the dictator of that country was brought in for an arraignment. And he said almost word for word what Nicolas Maduro said today. He said that he is the president of Iraq, that this is illegitimate, that none of this should apply to him. He asked questions. The judge tried to say this is just an arraignment. We just want your name. He started to present his defense. He was stopped from doing that. Almost exactly the same as what we're seeing right now. Ultimately, Saddam Hussein was hanged for war crimes. But his defense team was making this same argument, and he was making the same argument. And he was also trying to crash a smile around the room. He was
Exactly.
he was trying to show that he was very much in
Pay attention to how they word it. Exactly.
at least one time before.
I'll be right back, fam.
Quite a unique historic parallel.
Richard Engel on the ground in the region in Colombia. It is just after 1 o'clock here on the East Coast, 10 in the West, and you are looking live now at some of these images from New York City as Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro and his wife Celia Flores are on their way back to a detention facility after their arraignment in U.S. federal court just minutes ago. Both of them pleading not guilty to those federal charges of drug trafficking conspiracy, with Maduro saying, "I am president of the Republic of Venezuela." He says, "I am here kidnapped since Saturday." You see his quote here, saying he was captured at his home in Caracas, Venezuela. Obviously, that was the military operation, large scale, by the United States, late Friday into Saturday morning, in which Maduro and Flores were extracted to the United States, flown back to New York, where they have been in that detention facility for the course of the last 48 hours. I want to bring in now Ana Vanessa Herrero, a freelance reporter who is in Caracas. She has been reporting on the ground from inside Venezuela for us. Ana, the last 2-3 hours, what has it been like where you are?
Well, believe it or not, I was expecting, when I imagined this moment, I was expecting people on the streets, people manifesting and saying what they thought of, but really, this is not the case. People are being very cautious. They're staying home. Those who started their regular activities this Monday are just going to work and then at the supermarket, pharmacy, and then back home. But we do have a strong connection with the National Assembly of Venezuela.
Hey, good
Right now,
creaker.
you were reporting what was happening inside the courthouse. The National Assembly of Venezuela and the State Foundation was
I still can't get over how they hijacked this dude's country and kidnapped this dude.
Nicolas Maduro,
It's
and he
wild.
was almost crying. He completely, his voice completely broke, saying that we are going to embrace again here in Venezuela. He said that he was kidnapped. He said that the two, Celia Flores and Nicolas Maduro, were kidnapped by the United States and that Venezuela was not going to be a colony. And then the now president of the National Assembly, the brother of Delcy Rodriguez, the interim president, said that in the place where Celia Flores sits in the chair inside of the National Assembly is, he left red flowers, trying to symbolize her, because she said there's one missing, and that is Celia Flores. So they put a little flower there to just symbolize that it was her. So this is very. I mean, there's a lot of information going on. At the same time, he was declared not guilty, and she was being declaring herself not guilty. This was happening in the National Assembly, and all eyes in Caracas are right there, right now.
And what we are looking at, Anna, thank you so much for your reporting. What we are looking at now on the left side of your screen is our Tom Winter reports, the exit of the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel. For police, it appeared to have shut down one of the lanes, and Maduro seems to be traveling by car now to that Brooklyn jail. We're keeping an eye on all of those movements. Let me bring back in Sam Brock, who is outside that Manhattan court, was inside the room as Maduro and his wife were being arraigned. And as you heard Anna just report, Sam, Venezuelans were watching, Venezuelan Americans here in the United States watching as well.
It's so interesting, the idea that there's this mixture of emotions for Venezuelans right now, Holly. Obviously, the euphoria, the celebration, the unbridled happiness. For those of us that know Venezuelans in our life and are experiencing those joys of thinking that this brutal dictatorship may be over, but also wondering what comes next from this illegitimate government. Are they going to take power now that Maduro has been deposed? I will say that there certainly seems to be some of that here in terms of the crowds that have showed up in front of it.
Ah, come on, really?
It's acrimony between those who are protesting right now against the idea the U.S. had no right to do this, to invade a sovereign nation and to take its leader and bring him back to the United States and U.S.
Hello, smell the roses. Sorry about Nightbot.
And the idea that someone, and I will sort of lay out in the
I'm sorry
background,
about Nightbot. I gotta figure out how to reset that Nightbot.
this was a superseding indictment back in 2020.
We
Well,
ain't there yet.
5 years, the U.S. government lays out a case where he's working with the civil law
Hopefully, you won't get timed out if I do this.
sponsored narco-terrorism at a time when the 30 million people that live in Venezuela are struggling with rolling
That
livelihoods
should
and
help a
getting
little
basic
bit.
medical
Hopefully.
devices and food and water
Oh
and toilet
crap.
paper and all the things that we repeatedly report on when there are shortages of in Venezuela, that he was enriching his own pockets and the pockets of his administration.
Yes. Hate these ads. God, I hate these ads. Turn this up a little bit more.
Stretches, I think, as Tom said, from Miami to Madrid, all over the world. We're seeing it here in New York, we're seeing it in Miami, but there is also the realization that there is an intense legal battle that is going to be taking place, and whether or not these motions may be
You're
successful
welcome.
on behalf of
I
the
figured
world.
it's only fair since you gave me one.
So all of these different layers of a very
It's only
complicated
fair, right?
subject are all interspersed right now together, as we are just watching this extraordinary first arraignment and now visual trip for Maduro and his wife Celia back to NBC, back to the Metropolitan.
Now, everything that they're accusing
Thank you.
this
Extraordinary,
guy
to say
of,
the least. This
they
is
need to be able to prove
live
it.
aerial images from our NBC
And
reports.
from what I'm seeing, it
We have heard, as Sam talks about, the
they
legal
ain't,
battle
they
has
ain't able to
over
prove
Nicolas
nothing
Maduro's new defense attorney,
based
Gary
on
Collins,
what I've
joined me
seen and
outside the
heard.
court just minutes ago. I want to play for you what he said. Watch this.
Just in terms of his capture, because you guys did raise the concern regarding
And this is Maduro's lawyer.
President Maduro said, and the court speaks for itself.
And a reminder of what Nicolas Maduro said in court. He said he is
What the hell am I
extremely
squinting for? Let me put my glasses on.
Venezuela. He said he was
Hell, I'm squinting
taken
for.
from his home in Caracas by the U.S. military. You see it there. I want to bring in our chief
Well, he ain't lying. He was kidnapped.
continues the clock for the DOJ to lay out the legal proceedings in the face of the arguments that the defense team will put up.
The president himself, Holly, on that very topic, was yesterday saying that Nicolas Maduro and his wife would face the full fight.
But you know something I'm trying to figure out?
From the Attorney General, Pam Bondi,
How are they going to charge the wife?
about this capture, the arrest of Maduro.
Look, just because the wife may know about something don't mean that she was a participant.
case would hear, but this one, of course,
I mean, am I right or am I wrong?
the Justice Department is putting a lot of resources behind this effort right now, as we've now learned, likely the next court appearance for Maduro to take place just a couple of months from now. There are a lot of questions to be raised with the Justice Department, with the president himself. He has no public events scheduled for today, but, how does the White House respond to this argument from Maduro and his team that this was a military
Yeah, how they gonna argue
that
that
was initially
when they basically hijacked this dude's
now
country
asking the interim president of
and
Venezuela,
basically
Delcy
kidnapped this
Rodriguez,
dude?
her comments immediately following the
Here's the
investigation that
thing,
this was an
Mark.
illegal kidnapping,
They
saying that there was only
claim
one president
that
of
they had
Venezuela, in fact saying
a
the United
warrant
States
from
Nicolas
the
Maduro
FBI.
at this time. A couple things are striking.
But
It's
but here's the
well,
thing though.
I think it is worth
Considering that they use the
the
military,
president's
they were supposed to have a
residence that
warrant,
Maduro has
a
in his
different kind of
investment
warrant
over there. Clearly, he
that
is a very large
that the
man,
European
and he is
Union
one who has done more
used
than 13
and that
years
NATO
overseas,
used
placing
for
service in Venezuela. As
war
a senior White House
criminals.
official said today,
Um,
part of that performative nature
so they
of
claim that
this
they had a
is
warrant,
something that really sort of
but they haven't
got
showed proof of a warrant.
underneath the
If
skin
that makes
of some of those
sense.
who were at the White House, that the members of the inner circle for the president viewed the sort of public displays, the repeated displays of dancing, the rejection of multiple offers for him to surrender as evidence, basically, of not just Maduro's
Okay, I
defiance,
gotta
but
pause this
his
for a
mocking
second.
and the work.
They claim that they gave this to all of this time to surrender this, that, and the third. If y'all have proof that y'all gave this guy all kinds of chances to surrender, show the proof of it. Here's what annoys me with this: they doing a whole bunch of talking and not showing nothing. What's the point in y'all talking if y'all not showing the damn thing? You're making all these claims with no proof. If you don't have proof, shut the hell up. If you don't have proof, they doing too much talking for me, man.
Of this official, the president, and trying to call the president's bluff. They say, this official says, that the president does not bluff on that matter, but it's very clear that Maduro is not going to go down in effect without a fight, not a physical one, but
Hell no, he
physically.
ain't going
He
down
has
without a
made very
fight.
clear his view that he, to this day,
Yeah,
remains
most likely
a
are.
twist away from.
You're
We are
most
seeing
likely right,
President Trump
Mark.
legality now
But the
raised not
thing
just by
is,
Maduro's defense team,
public
but studying
opinion
Congress as well. And for
does
that,
not
we have to
override
check out the
facts.
correspondent Ryan Nobles. Some of them, Ryan
The
Nobles
fact the
agrees here in
facts
Washington, as lawmakers
of a
look to
case
conduct
are always
oversight
going
of
to win
President
out, no matter what.
Yeah, this will be the first opportunity for
Always.
members of Congress to get a first-hand understanding as exactly what the administration's arguments are for going into Venezuela, for removing Maduro and his wife, and not informing Congress or looping them in or asking for authorization as a result. At 5:30 tonight, here in Washington, a group of high-level administration officials, including the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, General Kane, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, will all brief the Gang of Eight, which is the group of leaders, both Republican and Democrat, of the key committees of jurisdiction and the leadership of both the House and Senate. Now, we don't expect that when they come out of this meeting that they'll give us too much information as to what was told, as it will be a classified briefing. But we should get some sense of whether or not these members of Congress are comfortable
Yeah,
with the
they
way that
gotta
this
tell
process
they ain't got no choice but
some
to tell us
Democrats have outright
something.
called it illegal. They have forecasted the possibility of a quagmire that the United States could get itself involved in. Hallie, we should learn a lot more about what Congress thinks about this intervention here over the next couple of days now that they're back here in Washington.
Ryan Nobles, thank you. I want to bring in our moderator of Meet the Press, Kristen Welker, who is joining us now. And Kristen, there is the legal component of this. There is the political component of this. There is the foreign policy component of this, with a lot on the line for the Trump administration. This is arguably the biggest foreign policy test yet for President Trump in this second administration. Hallie, we're getting our first little snapshot of how
Yep.
the public views this. The Washington Post took a poll. I want to stress this was a snap poll taken the days and hours after Nicolas Maduro was seized from Venezuela. But some really
Yeah, yeah. You already know it's gonna fall apart.
of sending U.S. military into Venezuela to capture Nicolas Maduro. 40% approve, okay? So pretty divided evenly.
Well,
Now,
yeah.
80% say they are
What
ensuring
the? Yeah, they did do it without Congress approval, and not only that, there were people in Congress trying to sound the alarm on that this right here may happen, and unfortunately, not a lot of people listen. But old saying goes, a hard head make a soft ass.
If this drags out, that could change. Holly. Kristen Welker, thank you very much for that. Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro and his wife Celia Flores on their way back to that Brooklyn detention facility, capping a stunning 48 hours with their not guilty pleas in U.S. federal court and setting the stage for what is sure to be a bruising legal battle ahead, perhaps a political one for President Trump. That concludes our coverage. We'll return you now to NBC News.
Okay,
Welcome
so
to NBC News Daily. You have been watching a special report with Hallie Jackson.
okay, I thought it was done. Hold on. Okay. Yeah, they're done. This NBC News. Let me go with this person. This person here is called the Pascal Show. Let's get it. See what he got to say. Come on.
A portion of what he said, we call for the respect for what is ours, for Venezuelan life, and the essence of being Venezuelan.
And again, this is a guy by the name of the Pascal Show. Shout out to him.
You notice the little hobble in his step?
Because he's been covering
So
this
he got injured too.
quite extensively.
He got injured. His wife got injured too. You know, they got bruised ribs. She got like apparently some really bad bruised ribs. He's got a little hitch in his step. He's limping like crazy too. So yeah, this is yeah. They came in with aggression for sure.
Behind
you know damn well they did.
We have to be honest, she's in a pretty difficult position. She's been put under immense pressure by President Trump, by his Secretary of State. They have essentially given her an ultimatum, haven't they? They will continue to put pressure, blockade oil, threaten further military action unless she meets their demands, their wishes. Those demands including stopping the flow of migrants into the U.S., stopping the flow of drugs into the U.S. And just to give you a sense, Anita, of where we are, this is actually, as you said, the Colombia-Venezuelan border. This is the border crossing, and as you can see, it is a busy border crossing, and we've seen so many cars going back and forth, and right now there's actually a pretty long line from the Colombian side to get into Venezuela. And, this is a place that moves people, goods, all sorts of wares that are going back and forth. And this bridge, Puente Simon Bolivar, that we've seen just behind us, if you cross just past there, you get directly to Venezuela. We can't go in. At the moment, journalists are not being allowed in. But what you would see is Venezuelan army. And that just gives you a sense of how closely connected these two countries are as well. The reason that's important is the flow of migrants really has come across this bridge so often in the past 5 to 10 years. Venezuelans who have been fleeing, Venezuela, fleeing economic insecurity and violence and political persecution. At the moment, things here,
which is true about Venezuela. There has been a whole bunch of financial mess going on.
Rodriguez and the U.S. That could turn at any moment and really change the situation here at the border and across Colombia and, of course, inside Venezuela.
Yeah, and is there a sense of nervousness in Colombia right now, Sumi, because we've seen President Trump direct comments towards his Colombian opposite number, Gustavo Petro, of the nature that he was sending to Nicolas Maduro in the last few weeks and months. He spoke to reporters in Air Force One saying a military operation in Colombia, quote, sounds good.
Yeah, and he called the Colombian president a sick man running a sick country who is fueling the cocaine industry and sending cocaine to the United States. Look, there is a sense of
calm here at the border, but there is also a sense that this is a real possibility for confrontation. I received messages from Colombian friends who have said we are really.
And I got to pause this for a second. Now, know what you just said, that that the people are looking for for a conflict. In my opinion, it's not if a conflict will come. For me, it's when, cause we all know that things are gonna get a lot worse. The only question is how much worse will things get. Let's continue.
Worried because of the rhetoric from President Trump. If you listen to the Colombian President Gustavo Petro, he's remained defiant. He's been very clear that he will not tolerate any sort of aggression from President Trump from the U.S. In fact, in a message that he put out on X earlier today, he said, I haven't picked up arms since the Peace Pact of 1989, but I will pick up arms to defend our country even if I don't want to. So very strong words from the president. That doesn't change the fact, however, Anita, that there is that nervousness that you mentioned. There is a sense that what happened in Venezuela very well could bleed over into Colombia, and we could see a direct confrontation between President Trump and Colombia's president. Remember that we saw the U.S. actually sanction Colombia's president, his wife, his son, the interior minister, over some of his actions, and that confrontation is only continuing to grow in the war of words, if you will, between the two leaders. Okay, Sumi, thank you very much. Sumi Samaskanda there. And we'll have much more on that story for you. So do stay with us here on The World Today. We'll be back after this.
Yeah, it sounds like there's more casualties than what they let off.
Yeah, way more.
It's all bad.
What was you saying, Mark? Who you talking about? The allies for Venezuela? I think Brazil is one, Colombia is one, and I think Russia and China are other ones. Um, I think Chile is one. Their European allies. I'm not sure who their European allies are, but I just name off the allies that I knew that Venezuela had off the top of their head. Let's get back into this. I'm gonna play a little bit of this guy, and then I'm gonna play something else too.
Hold on, guys. Just checking something. It looks like they. It looks like he.
Oh, you talking about Cuba? I think Cuba is one. I think Cuba is an ally of Venezuela. But it's the thing with Cuba though. Cuba looks like they could be next on the list for who to go after. So pay attention in the next couple of weeks if Trump mentioned Cuba. Cause unfortunately, and I hate to even claim that this SOB comes from my state, Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina basically is putting out the dog whistle for Trump to go after Cuba. So there's that mess out there.
You want to play? Oh, you want to play? Okay, cabron. Let's go, chica. And he said, hey, you going to get hit. You're going to have big problems. Huge problems. The bigger than Maduro has ever seen of the likes you've never seen before.
Okay, dude, you're doing too much. Dude, you're doing too much. Let me find. Okay, here we go. Um, I have something else here from Savvy Savs, and it's called "The Real Reasons Trump Kidnapped Maduro." With that being said, let's get it.
I'm Brett. And I'm Jonathan. This is Darla.
And this right here is crazy. What she's getting ready to tell y'all.
Begin this question: Who wins? Who wins with this situation? Donald Trump kidnapped Nicolas Maduro and his wife in the dead of night.
I hope not, man. I hope Russia don't get involved, man.
Let's do a flashback first before we get into the details. And then we're going to break this down. We're going to look at the drug claim. We're going to look at the Venezuelan refugees, which that has been announced newly. We're going to look at Israel. We're going to look at the money, and we're going to look at the public response. Right now, I'm here to tell you, this is not good for Donald Trump. People are not happy despite what you think you're seeing on social media. But let's go back.
Ain't no damn body happy.
Shout out to Gen X Girl. Like I said, she has been on it. We've been here before.
Yep. Here we go. Noriega.
I had no higher obligation than to safeguard the lives of American citizens. And that is why I directed our armed forces to protect the lives of American citizens in Panama and to bring General Noriega to justice in the United States. Good afternoon. Yesterday,
Yep. And GW with Saddam Hussein.
8:30 p.m. Baghdad time, United States military forces captured Saddam Hussein alive. He was found near a farmhouse.
Yeah, y'all did catch him alive and killed the man 2 days later.
Conducted without casualties.
Wow. Unconfirmed. Yeah. Unconfirmed. Yeah. Unconfirmed reports about Gaddafi being captured. And then unconfirmed videos. We came, we saw, and died. Mm-hmm. So, we've been here before. Same place.
As far as I know, I think they still are.
Different reason every now and then. But Brian Berlatek,
I hope you guys can still hear
he
this.
warned people about this multiple times. He actually warned people about it on my show. Brian Berlatek said, like I said before, neocon sock puppet Trump and his neocon line administration even won the election or took office. Nothing was going to change no matter who was elected, and all the neocon wars would advance as usual. In fact, they accelerated. This should lay to rest any doubt regarding U.S. withdrawal from hegemony. These fantasies floating around out here, especially regarding Russia, Iran, and China, who the U.S. is already in the process of fighting either directly or by proxy, and whose dismemberment of Venezuela aims to further isolate and weaken.
I also want to make sure y'all can hear this
what
clearly.
Brian Berlatek revealed on this show was that the Brookings Institute had already explained years ago the foreign policy, the plan for foreign policy laid out over the next couple of years. And one of them was Venezuela. So what you see happening right now was already decided. When it comes to foreign policy, oftentimes this is the case. Now, let's go to what Donald Trump said about Venezuela and Maduro.
Getting land, oil rights, whatever we had, they took it away because we had a president that maybe wasn't watching. But they're not going to do that. We want it back. They took our oil rights. We had a lot of oil there. As you know, they threw our companies out, and we want it back.
I don't know how many times Donald Trump has made the statement that we want the oil.
And still, people continue to fall for the okie doke. So, here's what happened, ladies and gents. People are asking, why didn't Maduro's military step in to protect him or save him? Did you know that the U.S. government turned off the lights? And if they can turn off the lights in Venezuela, they can turn off the lights anywhere. They can turn off the lights right here.
Show hell
Everyone needs to
can.
remember this. So, there is footage of this, of the lights going off. Check this out.
Were you listening when Donald Trump said this?
Maduro in the dead of night. It was dark. The lights of Caracas were largely turned off due to a certain expertise that we have.
It sounds like what he's saying is the United States has the capability of turning off the lights for 1.9 million people in a large Latin American country like that. And of course, I wouldn't believe it if there wasn't a video.
Y después van hacia arriba. ¿Sí? Sí, por orden de su madre, por orden
And I have to pause it here because after that, you can't show explosions and stuff on here. But this streamer caught the Venezuela strikes live on stream. So again, what it said here, it shows you that the U.S. government turned off the lights in Caracas.
Yep.
I think a lot of times people are underestimating the type of technology that we have in this country, military technology.
And the thing is, I won't tell you how they did it. Is anybody familiar with an EMP burst? Now, some people think that EMPs are fake. No, they're not. EMPs are very much real, my friend. Very much real. Let's get back into it.
If they can turn off the lights in Venezuela, they can turn off the lights anywhere, even here. So they turned off the lights. So for people asking why didn't Maduro's military come in and help him, complete blackout. Everything went out. Now imagine walking down the street and that happens, right? Before they captured him, do you know who he met with? Maduro met with a Chinese special envoy. See, these are the things people need to see. This was his last public appearance. He was meeting with China.
Dang, that Maduro dude's tall. What is he, like 6'5", 6'6"? That dude at least gotta be like 6'6".
Now remember,
See, you was thinking the same thing I was thinking.
BRICS is Brazil, Russia, India, China.
See, that's the only way they could have got that dude was somebody put an EMP right there in the middle of that city.
They've entertained that as well. So I just find it interesting that the moment they decided to kidnap, and I say kidnap, not capture. Let's go to part 2, Eric. They decided to kidnap Maduro. It was right after he met with China. They kidnapped him. Let's show the pictures here. I want you to see the picture. So first of all, they blocked off his sight. They blocked off his sound. I don't even think that's legal. I don't think it's legal to block off someone's senses when they're being transported, especially after you've kidnapped them. There's Maduro right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's another one here. Okay? So that was him on board the USS Iwo Jima. Right there. Now, the reason why I showed you those videos at the very beginning, just to remind you that this has been done through multiple presidential terms, whether it was Gaddafi under Obama, whether it was Saddam Hussein under George W. Bush. It doesn't matter what the party is that's in the White House when it comes to imperialism abroad.
Yep,
And when it comes
that's
to
what it is, imperialism.
Now, I mention those because
All right,
I
Mark.
you what happened to those countries when they overthrew their leader. Because for all the people saying this is a win for Venezuela,
I don't see no win for Venezuela.
Nothing good
Cause it
can come from
did
this. In fact, Tulsi Gabbard had been warning about this for years until she decided to get paid. Now you don't hear.
this. This is not a win for Venezuela in any shape, any way, shape, form, and or fashion. This here is only the start of something, y'all. It's only gonna get worse from here. I don't know how many times I'm gonna have to say it, but it's only gonna get worse from here.
Tulsi Gabbard saying anything. She is silent as hell since Maduro was kidnapped. There's another video that was released here. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro tells reporters good night and Happy New Year. This one came through pretty late last night here. Now, people saw this and they said, well, he doesn't look upset or anything like that. And I said, well, you know.
Yep, it's gonna hurt him bad. You're right. It's gonna hurt him
At the
bad.
end of the day, remember, Nicolas Maduro, before he was captured, he said that he was willing to talk, to sit down and talk. But Trump was like, nah, we're going to go in gangster style. And notice, just like that, people stopped talking about the Epstein files. Just like that. And what's scary about this is Donald Trump is saying we can do this everywhere. No one can stop us. His words, not mine.
But we can't take a chance after having done this incredible thing last night of letting somebody else take over, where we have to do it again. We can do it again, too. Nobody can stop us. There's nobody that has the capability that we have. You know, when I watch that war in Russia going on and on and on and everybody dying, it's like, yeah, it's primitive. It's primitive. It's horrible.
So there is the President of the United States saying we can do this anywhere and no one can stop us. By the way, Donald Trump has already announced we're going to look at Cuba. There's something that these countries also have in common. We'll get into that
Oil.
as well.
I'll say it, oil.
But let's start with the drug claim. The drug claim. Donald Trump and his minions said that Nicolas Maduro, that they were trafficking fentanyl.
What's the proof?
Not even produced in Venezuela. But you don't have to believe me. Just look at what Wallace says. Drug traffickers in South America do not produce or traffic fentanyl. Let's go on here. It says, especially in northwest 3,000 miles from Venezuela, as the only significant source of illicit fentanyl and fentanyl analogs, significantly affecting the United States during the preceding calendar year. The analysis concluded on September 3rd, 2025. There is no proof that fentanyl is manufactured or trafficked from Venezuela or anywhere else in South America. I have been saying this over and over again. Fentanyl is not produced in South America. Yet Donald Trump and Marco Rubio and Pam Bondi and all of them said it, so it must be true, according to their supporters. Quick Google search and you can find this. Now people bring up cocaine. Now why are they bringing up cocaine? Because now all of a sudden, it's not fentanyl that is in the indictment report. This was released earlier Sunday morning. The U.S. indictment of Maduro cites cocaine smuggling, trade in which Venezuela's role is believed to be modest. So it went from fentanyl to cocaine. Experts have said that Venezuela is not a major producer, not a major drug producer, but rather a minor cocaine transit country, with most of the cocaine flowing through headed to Europe. Right here. Plain as day.
Yep.
Now, why is this important? Because Nicolas Maduro will stand trial here in the United States, and the trial, again, according to the indictment, which has flipped from fentanyl to cocaine, because people went through the indictment and saw that there were fentanyl's not there, it's cocaine that's there. So it's now flipped to cocaine. The trial that is going to take place here, the U.S. government basically has to prove that Nicolas Maduro was trafficking cocaine to the United States. But all the other reports don't show that that is the case. That there was very little cocaine coming from Venezuela, and what was coming from it, the majority was going to Europe. So for all the people who are pushing back and saying, no, he's right to go take him down because of the drugs, well, that will be something that the U.S. government will have to prove in court.
Exactly.
Now, I have
prove it in court.
Justice system, so I think if they want something to stick, they'll find a way to make it stick. But if they cannot and are not willing to go that far, the trial will happen. They'll have no evidence, no proof. Maduro will be acquitted. He'll make some type of deal or agreement with Donald Trump and the administration, and the U.S. government will have a leader installed in Venezuela that they want. And that's the end of that.
That's what they plan on doing anyway.
That's Manuel Noriega. There are similarities between the two, for those who are not aware. Before Maduro, there was Noriega. The Venezuela leader is now in U.S. custody.
You're right about that one. That they've been eyeing Cuba.
Panama. Let's get into just a little bit of this here. I'm gonna make this.
But I think they've been wanting Cuba for a minute, though.
In the back, as usual. Let's get into Manuel Noriega here just to show you a little bit striking resemblance here. That episode holds some striking parallels to the capture of Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela on Saturday, to the capture of Manuel Noriega, with some major differences. George H.W. Bush sent U.S. troops into Panama with the goal of capturing Noriega, who had been the country's military dictator for about 6 years. Noriega went into hiding in the Vatican's embassy in Panama City, where he was eventually captured, taken to the U.S., tried, and imprisoned. Noriega, like Maduro, had been indicted on federal drug trafficking charges. He was accused by the U.S. officials at the time of taking millions of dollars in bribes from drug traffickers and turning Panama into a capital of international cocaine smuggling. Months before both leaders were captured, the U.S. built up its military presence around their countries. Sound familiar? In Panama, President Bush sent nearly 2,000 soldiers and Marines to reinforce the 10,300 service members already there. The troops also began conducting military exercises. But many saw it as an attempt to overthrow Noriega. As part of the pressure campaign on Venezuela, Trump has been building up forces in the Caribbean for months and authorizing strikes on boats that the administration have said are run by drug traffickers. Now, what is interesting about Noriega, the two Latin American leaders, however, have very different responses to U.S. pressure.
Since some missile crisis,
Again, Noriega, as we said, he went into hiding. He fled with his mistress in an unmarked Hyundai and went into hiding, briefly emerging at a Dairy Queen before taking refuge at the embassy of Holy See. He was captured after a standoff that went on for days with the U.S. troops. They used, and this is important, they used speakers to blast heavy metal from bands like Black Sabbath and Guns N' Roses until he surrendered. So that's this type of psychological torture. Noriega, remember, he was basically useful to the U.S. government until he wasn't. Noriega was one of the ones that went to the School of Americas. Let me check that real quick. Just make sure I got the name right. I believe it's the School of Americas. Yeah, the School of Americas. So what was interesting about this school, this is the school which says, he went to the School of Americas for training. At the school, Noriega participated in courses on infantry operations, counterintelligence, intelligence, and jungle warfare. He also took a course in psychological operations at Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
Well, he was at Fort Bragg.
Was useful to the U.S. until he wasn't. This is something people need to remember. Also, don't forget that the School of Americas was one that was caught up in several abuses. Remember they talked about before how they were abusing people at the School of Americas? And a lot of people point to it as a CIA front. So these are things that people need to understand. So I thought it's important to show that in this part here where Mr. Trump said in an interview on Fox that Mr. Maduro wanted to negotiate in the final days before U.S. forces, I'm going to say, kidnapped him, and Trump rejected it.
Yeah, because Trump was looking to take everything for himself anyway.
So, just a reminder there, folks. Like I said, we have been here before. And so now, Rodriguez is now installed basically as the president, at least for now. She's the leader in charge in Venezuela. And I want you to hear what she says here again. She was the vice president, Delcy Rodriguez. She's been sworn in as the president. Listen to what she said.
The vice president, who has just been sworn in as the president of Venezuela. Let's listen in to this media conference.
This means what our energy resources mean. So this National Defense Council is hereby activated, commission, and we are awaiting the constitutional chamber of the Supreme Court.
Yeah, rest in peace, Ozzy Osbourne.
We will hear what the verdict is. We will wait to see what happens with the Supreme Leader, President Maduro, and all of this is going to be discussed as of this point in time. For our Venezuela, our people here, we have a clear government, and I repeat once and again, based on the words of the president, I reflect them right here. We are willing to respect under the framework of international law and the rules of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. It's the only thing that will be acceptable for us for any engagement and relationship after there has been an assault and aggressive attacks militarily on our nation capital and the nation of our father, the liberator, Simon Bolivar. We will find our path forward in peace and tranquility. Those who have resorted to the use of force, those who must resort to international legality, don't have reason on their side. We have reason on our side, and we have the moral empowerment to be able to defend peacefully and tranquility for the future of the people, the right to peace for the Venezuelan people, and the right to a social happiness that we continue galloping forward with our liberator together. We're going to continue to gallop forward in this campaign. We will continue galloping forward.
Yeah, the translator is not the best, okay? But long story short, what Rodriguez is saying there is that they're not just going to fold over to the United States government. It's basically what she is saying. Now, let's go on a little bit more here. Let's get into the Maria issue. Now, one of the people who wanted Donald Trump to invade her country was Maria Corina Machado. She was the one that was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize recently, and I told you guys what a joke. This is bullshit. She, in particular, wanted to sell off the oil, the gas, the gold, and wanted to work with Israel. She's a proud Zionist. Listen, just a reminder of what she said, because I want to show you what Trump is saying about her now. This is very important with one of the claims that they have against Maduro.
And this is amazing, super exciting for me. We will open Venezuela for foreign investment. I am talking about a $1.7 trillion opportunity. Not only in oil and gas, which is huge and all that the opportunities, because we will open all upstream, middle stream, downstream to all companies, but also in mining, in gold, in infrastructure, power. We have our grid right now as a 17 gigawatt opportunity of energy potential that needs to be rehabbed. certainly for technology and AI and tourism. You know, Venezuela has 2,800 kilometers of pristine Caribbean coastline ready to be developed. So this is going to be huge. We will bring rule of law. We will open markets. We will have security for foreign investment and a transparent, massive privatization.
Man, what you say and what y'all can do
So
are two
that's
different things.
Maria there, and that's really interesting because you're going to see what Trump is saying about her. Now, I think she really thought that she was going to be brought into power. Now, you have to remember Maria, her candidate was Edmundo Gonzalez, who ran against Maduro in the most recent election. He is the one that Maria and others have said was the truthful winner and that Maduro stole it, etc. That's important. It's important that you hold on to that the election was stolen, that's the claim, and that Maduro is not the rightful president for that country, that it was supposed to be Edmundo Gonzalez. The reason why I say it's important for you to hold on to that is because of what Donald Trump said here recently when he was asked about her after he kidnapped Maduro. He was questioned about Maria being the leader in the country, since again she was along with Edmundo, and they said that Maduro stole the election. Listen to this response. Where is the location of opposition leader Machado, and have you been in contact with her?
Not really.
On Monday.
I think it would be very tough for her to be the leader if she doesn't have the support within, or the respect within the country. She's a very nice woman, but she doesn't have the respect.
That part is important because if Maria and her candidate Edmundo Gonzalez,
Yep, sounds familiar. Trump don't respect women.
They were the ones that truthfully won. Why did she not have the popularity? Which is what Donald Trump just said. You see how you catch people in their own lies? If that's who the people truly wanted, why did she not have the popularity?
Exactly.
Something to think about, ladies and gents. But that was who they wanted. They wanted Edmundo to win. They wanted someone that was going to benefit American and Israeli interests. And that brings me to this question, the refugees. People are asking, well, what does that mean for Venezuelans, like here in the United States? Like, what does that mean for the Venezuelan people? And this is where some people are going to get mad. Some of the Trump supporters are already like lashing out on Twitter. They're pissed because of what DHS just said about what is going to happen to Venezuelans under that TPS, that temporary status. Listen to this.
Venezuela today is more free than it was yesterday, and it's going to continue to be that way as long as President Trump is in the White House and is making sure that he's protecting the interests of the American people, because that ripple effect will continue to bring that kind of liberty to Venezuela as well. These programs, we're bringing integrity back to them. The decisions are made in conjunction with the State Department, with the White House, and then we at Homeland Security implement them and make sure that they are followed through. So every individual that was under TPS has the opportunity to apply for refugee status, and that evaluation will look forward, but we need to make sure that our programs actually mean something and that we're following the law. And that's how that decision with TPS was made.
So, Dog Killer Lady just said that those individuals under TPS status now will have the opportunity to get the refugee status.
That makes no sense.
Okay, so here's the problem.
Alright, Mark, you good.
Okay? You ran on closing the borders and stopping immigration, all this stuff, right? And I'm going to deport all these people, get these people out of here. And when I tell you, when you look at the numbers, Donald Trump has had controversial deportations. But the numbers show he has still not deported more people than previous administrations. So now they're telling you that the same people that they're supposedly doing mass deportations with, they're now giving them the opportunity
to have the refugee status. This is how people get played. People are mad. People are very mad. I saw a number of people reposting this, like, what the hell is wrong with her? The White House is trying to say, no.
Despite being a pretty damn reliable Pokemon.
This is exactly what she said.
Oh, come on.
Let's move to the Israel part. How much does Israel play a part in this? Well, just listen to what Netanyahu said before they kidnapped Maduro.
We've had an unbelievable success by degrading Iran, which was the first-rate power. Now it's a second-rate or third-rate power. They were throwing their weight all over the place, exporting terrorism not only to every part of the Middle East, but to Venezuela. They're in cahoots with the Maduro regime. They're exporting terrorism to America, to the American hemisphere, and then they want these Hezbollah and Hamas to get their guys into the United States. So Hamas and Iran and its proxies are a threat not only to us, but to Israel, all of America's allies in the Middle East, and to America. Netanyahu said this right before Nicolas Maduro was kidnapped. So here we go again with Israel saying, well, we got to go into Venezuela and go after them because, they're working with Iran and Hezbollah has made its way into Venezuela. This is the same guy that told you have to go into Iraq and you got to take them down because they're a threat to Israel and they're a threat to America. This guy and his government has been walking into Congress, has been walking in to meet with different presidents regardless of political party for years, telling them who you need to have wars with. And Iran is one of the countries that is on that list. So let me tell you something else now.
Talk about it.
Israel's going to strike Iran again.
They will.
Sometime this year. They're going to strike them again. And the same thing that you just saw happen in Venezuela, they are going to use this to go after all these countries that will not bend the knee to Israel. And the way the U.S. is using this, if they're not bending the knee to Israel, then they're not bending the knee to the United States or to the West in general. This guy and his "you need to go to war" rhetoric over the years has caused more deaths, and that doesn't just include those who've been killed in the Middle East, but I'm talking about American soldiers who were killed as well. He was just here at Mar-a-Lago with Donald Trump. He celebrated New Year's Eve with Donald Trump. You wonder where Iraq came from? He was telling the U.S. that for years, you need to go into Iraq. So when people say, well, everything can't be because of Israel and da-da-da-da, listen to this. Listen to this. They're putting it out there in the open. One thing I will say about the Trump administration is they're not covert, they're overt. So
Yep.
it's all out there. You have no excuse to say, well, I don't know about that. Said it right here. Listen to what the Fox News pundit says.
Venezuela has become a hotbed for every adversary of the United States to operate in the Western Hemisphere. Hezbollah has operations. The terrorist group Hezbollah, based in Lebanon, has operations that have been widely reported to be based in Venezuela. Iran is operating in Venezuela. Russia, China. It has become sort of the satellite state for the countries who we consider our adversaries and who are bent on trying to do everything they can to destabilize and undermine the West. So Venezuela has become
all for Israel. All for Israel. Again, they're putting it out there in the open. We have another one here, of course, from the U.S. ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee himself, puts it out in the open.
America. It is not just a threat in the Western Hemisphere.
It is a threat to the Middle East. So for the president to go after Venezuela, not only
How's Venezuela a threat to the Middle East? Make it make sense.
who were killed by the poison of drugs, is going to make life for those of us living in the Middle East much better, much safer.
And I have to stop it there because we can't show like explosions and stuff. But there's Mike Huckabee letting you know right there, this is going to be so much better for Israel. Every war, I look back on it, every war I feel like we've been involved in has been because of them. And it doesn't necessarily even have to be in the Middle East. I'm looking back at all of these things. We are turning pages. If we had a photo album. And for the people who are just and this is the other thing I said, like, everybody should be angry. Everybody should be angry, should be livid. No one should celebrate. Everyone should be furious. Maduro stood with the Palestinian people. These are the people they go after. They go after the ones that are pro-Gaza, pro-Palestine, the ones who are not willing to bend the knee to Israel and their Zionist genocidal regime. Don't let them sit up there and tell you this is about drugs. Donald Trump just pardoned Lauren Hernandez, who trafficked cocaine into the United States for years. So don't come up here and tell me this is about no damn drugs. Get out of here. Don't believe it. Don't allow yourself to be fooled. Let's go to the next part, Eric. The Israel component. How many of these wars have they been behind? How many? Look at all the people who died in Iraq. All the people who died in the Iraq War. Afghanistan. All these wars.
Too many count.
He tried to warn you. He tried to tell us ahead of time. He said they were waiting.
Oh, let me sit back. Oh, Lord. Oh. Damn, I've been sitting in this chair for a while.
Units from Lebanon, Yemen, Iraq, Iran, among others. Listen. Netanyahu is seeking to set the entire Middle East on fire, he says. With a war that no one knows it may begin, but one does not know the ramifications. In the midst of a U.S. and Western economy in recession. Economic crisis were the main drivers of the world economy for decades. He goes on to say we have to defend Venezuela's independence.
La paz de Venezuela, nuestro proyecto nacionalista bolivariano propio. Por eso tenemos que defender que Venezuela no caiga en las manos del sionismo.
He said we have to defend Venezuela from falling to the hands of Zionism. And if people don't sit back and get what this is really all about, I don't know what else to tell you at this point. These are the people that they're going after. He said Zionism wants to get its hands on Venezuela. He knew it. He knew that it was coming. And they come up with different reasons, of course. It's a cancer spreading. Now, this makes sense to me when we look at the Israel factor with Maduro's kidnapping. They've almost captured all of South America. What you have left now, you see Brazil. Guyana is very small, smaller up there. Here's Venezuela right there.
They're going to come for Brazil too at some point. This is not over. That's the thing. Like, none of these countries are safe. So do you see how Israel has planted its flag all along the coast? And now they're going to come after Venezuela because they sit on all that oil. We'll get to that. And then Brazil is going to be the big golden nugget. But they're going to get all of this. That's what they want to do. This is the problem. And essentially, it's not just Zionism, it's colonialism. So colonialism never ended. It just shifted to Israel. And as people say, it's the small, tiny little state that wants to expand. If it's one thing that history has taught us, it is colonialism expands. This is scary. And they'll go after any country that doesn't bend the knee. So you have that here. Here he goes on to say Cuba may be next, ladies and gentlemen.
The refuge for Cuba and Vietnam. Well, Cuba is an interesting case. Cuba is, not doing very well right now. That system has not been a very good one for Cuba. The people there have suffered for many, many years. And I think Cuba is going to be something we'll end up talking about because Cuba is a failing nation right now, very badly failing nation. And we want to help the people. It's very similar in the sense that we want to help the people in Cuba, but we want to also help the people that were forced out of Cuba and living in this country. Do you want to say something about that?
So let me show you the okie doke, okay? He wants to go in. Let's go into Cuba. We'll go into Cuba next, he says. So he says Cuba is a failing nation. So some of that has to do with the sanctions that have been implemented by the U.S. government. But the reality shows, according to the numbers, people in Cuba have a longer life expectancy than those of us here in the United States. They also have universal health care. Those things go hand in hand. And we already know that Israel has universal health care. So don't you find it strange that our politicians would care so much about the people in Cuba and the people in Venezuela when they don't even care about you? They don't care about you having health care. They don't care about you being able to actually have real liberation. How you got liberation if you can't even quit your job because you won't have health insurance?
Source Titan is made us look like $1 million, like a nationwide brand. Source Titan's a heartbeat. It's been able to make us look like a huge company because we're using the new technology, we're using the iPad.
The Farmer's Dog funded a metabolomic study.
Come on.
Wanted to prove
There we go.
that fresh food has
Sometime today.
Thank you for your effort. You just got a different ball and chain that's tying you down. You may not be in handcuffs. You may not be shackled. But the economic situation here in the United States is not great. And as much as Trump and them are trying to tout and say, we're going to go save these people, they're not saving people, they don't liberate people, this is colonialism, it's imperialism.
Yep, imperialism 101.
Those are going to be worse off after U.S. intervention. Every single time.
Always.
So there's no freedom, there's no liberation, that's not what's happening there. We can't even save our own damn people. Now, Jeffrey Sachs also coming in, we're moving on to the money situation. So when we look at the money, listen to what Jeffrey Sachs says here.
So the U.S. government has been trying to strangle the Venezuelan economy. It started with sanctions in 2017 that prevented essentially the country from accessing international capital markets and the oil company from restructuring its loans. That put Venezuela into a hyperinflation. That was the utter collapse. Oil earnings plummeted. The earnings that are used to buy food and medicine collapsed. That's when the social humanitarian crisis went spiraling out of control. And then in this year is with this idea, very naive, very stupid in my view, that there would be this self-proclaimed president, which was all choreographed with the United States very, very closely. Another round of even tighter sanctions, essentially confiscating the earnings and the assets of the Venezuelan government took place. Now Venezuela is in complete, utter catastrophe. A lot of it brought on by the United States deliberately, creating massive suffering. We know there's hunger. We know there's an incredible shortage of medical supplies. We can only imagine, because we won't know really until the dust settles and careful studies are done, how much excess mortality there is. But surely in a context like this is a catastrophe.
It is a catastrophe, and this is what
Deeply.
Jeffrey Sachs tried to warn people about this as well.
Deeply, it's a
Sanctions kill
catastrophe.
people. It is economic warfare. Now all of a sudden, like he said, you may not be able to afford medicine. You may not be able to get the treatment that you need, which means you could die. Like, this is really sad. But we also look at the money. Blatant statements that have been made out in the open about what they really want. I mean, listen to this here.
Of course, the countries, Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua, with Russia relationships, why this region matters with all of its rich resources and rare earth elements. You've got the lithium triangle, which is needed for technology today. 60% of the world's lithium is in the lithium triangle, Argentina, Bolivia, Chile. We just have the largest oil reserves, light sweet crude discovered off of Guyana over a year ago. You have Venezuela's resources as well, with oil, copper, gold. We have the Amazon, lungs of the world. We have 31% of the world's fresh water in this region too. I think it's just off the charts. We have a lot to do. This region matters. It has a lot to do with national security.
Has nothing to do with national security and everything to do with the resources that she just mentioned there. Notice she also said Nicaragua, so they're probably looking to go into there next. So it has nothing to do with the people of Cuba. It has nothing to do with the people of Venezuela.
Nothing.
Americans fall for this trick. Because what the hell makes you think they care about people in another country when they don't even care about people here? People have to start using common sense. So she put it all out there in the open to let everybody know what the game was. Tulsi Gabbard, when she wasn't a kiss ass and selling out, back in 2019, she said, it's about the oil again. Bolton just exposed the real motive for intervention in Venezuela. We are in conversation with major American companies now. It would make a difference if we could have American companies produce the oil in Venezuela. We both have a lot at stake here. That was Tulsi Gabbard 2019. By the way, Tulsi been very quiet since they kidnapped Maduro. So this is someone of all people who knows the game, but they're choosing to just play along because they have some typical future political aspirations.
Exactly.
That's really what this is about for Tulsi Gabbard. She's the most shameful one of all because she talked about this for years. Now she pretends not to know any damn thing. We also talk about the money. We got to look at the petrodollar, and this is something else I think that may not be getting as much attention. The real reason the U.S. is invading Venezuela goes back to a deal Henry Kissinger made with Saudi Arabia in 1974. I'm going to show you that video, and then we're going to go back to the comments that he had here about the petrodollar. Here we go here.
The petrodollar is actually a device invented by Kissinger and Nixon. U.S. President Richard Nixon sent his Secretary of State and National Security Advisor Henry Kissinger to Saudi Arabia for a secret meeting.
That meeting took place on a battleship called the USS Quincy. And very few records were kept of that meeting, but Roosevelt promised the King of Saudi Arabia weapons and protection in exchange for the United States to have the exclusive right to develop oil in Saudi Arabia using dollars. Meaning, if countries wanted to trade the most important commodity of all, oil, they needed to get their hands on dollars. And from that point on, oil would be priced in USD. And if a country tried to get their hands on oil without using dollars, that country historically needed more freedom in their lives.
See how this works? So I want to show you something else here that he said about the petrodollar. We just go back up to the top part, right about here.
See what more she got for
This is
us.
important, this timeline. In 2000, Saddam Hussein announces Iraq will sell oil in euros instead of dollars. 2003 invaded, regime change. Iraq's oil immediately switched back to dollars. Saddam lynched. The WMDs were never found because they never existed. 2009, Gaddafi proposes a gold-backed African currency called the gold dinar for oil trade. Hillary Clinton's own leaked emails confirmed this was the primary reason for intervention. Email quote, this gold was intended to establish a pan-African currency based on the Libyan golden dinar. 2011, NATO bombs Libya. Gaddafi sodomized and murdered. Libya now has open slave markets. And now Maduro, with 5 times more oil than Saddam and Gaddafi combined, actively selling in yuan. Building payment systems outside dollar control, petitioning to join BRICS, partnering with China, Russia, and Iran, the 3 countries leading global de-dollarization. This isn't a coincidence. Challenge the petrodollar, get regime change. Every single time. If you follow the money, it'll all make sense. So, the United States never wanted these countries to have any true economic independence. And then there's the issue with the Rothschilds.
Yep.
One of the things that stood out to me on social media is that a Rothschild was very happy about this. And you got to know about the banking. This part is important as well. In 2000, there were 9 countries without a Rothschild-owned central bank. Now we get into the banks. Iran, Iraq, Cuba, Syria, Libya, Sudan, Venezuela, Afghanistan, and North Korea. They've checked out Iraq, checked out Libya, Sudan, Afghanistan. The U.S. has gone in the room with all these countries. And you see the countries that are left. So that lets you know the plan, ladies and gentlemen. I keep telling you, this is not in with Venezuela. So you see what they're coming for next. I forget who said it, but there was a quote that said, all wars are bankers' wars. I mean, it's all about money. If there was no profit,
all about the money.
It was a lot easier to stop wars. But there's money to be had, right? So do you see this? The banks. That was in 2000. We are currently in an Israeli proxy war with Iran and Syria and about to overthrow Maduro in Venezuela. Another thing that stood out to me. This is Nat Rothschild. When Trump kidnapped Maduro, he said, well done, Donald Trump. So here come the bankers. This is what I keep telling people. All of this is connected. And check this out with Venezuela. This guy here, TD John, said, of course Trump gets an attaboy from a member of the Rothschild family after the unprovoked attack on Venezuela. That's a confirmation. Check this out. Even AI knows it. No, Venezuela does not have a Rothschild central bank. The Central Bank of Venezuela, is a publicly owned institution responsible for the country's monetary policy and currency. The Rothschilds are Zionists, for those who are not aware. This is why I continue to say, and Eric, if you can find that picture of the pyramid, let me know in the chat. We talked about this a couple times on the show. The people you think are at the top are not at the top. We also follow the money. We show here what happened with Polymarket after this. A newly created Polymarket account invested over $30,000 yesterday in Maduro's exit. The U.S. then took Maduro into custody overnight, and the trader profited $400,000 in less than 24 hours. Insider trading is not only allowed on prediction markets, it's encouraged. You see how much money is to make here? Following the money.
is very important. So, the poly market. Wall Street. Big opportunity for Wall Street. I don't know what they did with this. I'll probably have to update it again. Oh, it is there, okay. Finance industry eyes investment opportunities in Venezuela. Of course they do. Some Wall Street people are already considering possible investment opportunities in Venezuela following the capture of Nicolas Maduro, according to Charles Myers, the chairman of the consulting firm Signum Global Advisors and a former head of investment advisory firm Evercore. So, and here it goes. They already talking about how they can make money in this situation. So, and this is why I say a lot of times these decisions, these policies, legislation, oftentimes don't happen unless it has some type of corporate interest attached to it. This is a perfect example. So Wall Street's happy. That tells you everything that you need to know. This is what I was talking about. See, a lot of times people think that the president is at the top. They're not. And if you look at this comparison here, feudalism then and now, medieval feudalism, you had the monarchs that were at the top. Those were the kings, the queens, and the emperors. Then you had the landed gentry, the clergy, the royal ministers, the merchants, the vassals, and at the bottom was everyone else, the peasants, the laborers, and the conscripts. And now, if you look at corporate feudalism today, you will see the billionaires are the ones at the top, right? Billionaires. Then you have the big bankers, J.P. Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Lloyd's. I would also put the central banks along with the billionaires as well, like the Rothschild. I would put them up there as well. Then you have the corporate elite, Fortune 500.
Okay, I see you, Mark.
Elected officials is all the way down here.
Everybody, Peach here, and today we're going to take a look at the Spedient's Gym Monster 2, which is an all-in-one.
And then you have top bureaucrats, commissioners, secretary, judges, top professionals, doctors, entertainers, and everyone else at the bottom. Workers, students, soldiers. Most of us are this part right here. Most of us are the everyone else at the bottom. And so with Donald Trump as an elected official, it's a little bit different for him because he's not just an elected official, he's also a billionaire. So he has a little bit more control than others don't. But they got you attacking everybody else when you see who's actually at the top. So we've gone through the drug claim. We've gone through the refugee situation, Israel, the money, and now we're getting to the responses. Cringe statements here from CNN host Erin Barnett. Look how she's smiling about this.
Venezuela has a population of 30 million people, and now that is owned by the United States. Just to think about it from such a simple black and white set of numbers like that, Venezuela has a population of 30 million people, and now that is owned by the United States. Just to think about it from such a simple black and white set of numbers like that.
She seems a little too smiley there, saying that the U.S. owns it. Because Donald Trump went on to say, we own Venezuela now. We're controlling Venezuela. Sounds like colonialism to me.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, what Donald Trump did, I said Dr. Trump, what Donald Trump did was illegal.
Very much illegal.
But nobody trying to stop him either, and that's what really pisses a lot of people off. When you look at the responses, there's a lot of information that I've seen on social media where people are posting videos that are incorrect. Alex Jones is one of them. Daniel McAdams said, ask yourself why Alex Jones is pushing disinformation in support of the neocons and the deep state. Wasn't his whole stick about opposing the deep state? So here's Alex Jones sharing this video. Millions of Venezuelans flooding the streets in Caracas and other major cities in celebration. So here's the problem, folks. That's false. Community Notes even checked it.
This video shows anti-Maduro protests in Caracas in July 29th, 2024, following the disputed presidential election, not celebrations of his recent capture by U.S. forces. He's just one of them. We'll show you more. Well, Nick Shirley. Nick Shirley, the guy who just reported on the whole Somalian daycare thing. I mean, I don't know what to tell you guys. But look at this. Wait a minute. MSM Media lied to us again. The people of Venezuela actually didn't like being ruled by narco terrorists. World Cup style celebrations are erupting all across Venezuela. Congratulations to the people of Venezuela. That's from Nick Shirley. There's just one problem. This video, for one, it received 3.8 million views. By the time Community Notes checked this, it was already over 115,000 views. But for the record, the video depicts Venezuelan exiles celebrating in the U.S. capture of Nicolas Maduro in Miami, Florida, rather than celebrations within Venezuela. And if you notice, all of the people who were posting these videos that have the community note tag attached to it, none of them have removed those videos. So what does that tell you? We talked about manufacturing consent, and we're seeing a different type of manufactured consent, this time not necessarily just from corporate media, but also from those who claim to be independent grassroots journalists. So now you have that happening in the so-called independent space. All the Zionist accounts, all the pro-Israel accounts were posting these videos yesterday, telling people it's Venezuela when it's not. Here's another one. Notice how all of the shows went mega viral using fake videos? This is the new preferred tool to manufacture consent and brainwash the populace. How much more evidence do you need to realize you're being bombarded with a court?
Alright, I'm just gonna go ahead and cut this off here. Hopefully everyone gets the general idea. A lot of this is smoke and mirrors and all that mess. Like, share, subscribe. Holler at y'all later. Peace. Oh yeah, before you go on, yeah, some of it does sound biblical. Alright, holler at y'all later.